Monsieur le Président, chers collègues,
President, dear colleagues, indeed, transfrontier cooperation between local and regional authorities is a very important part of the work done by the Council of Europe, the work to promote democratic stability and good neighbourly relations between states and between local and regional authorities in Europe. It's one of the fundamental political roles of the Council of Europe that we see implemented at local and regional level. The frontiers are often the scars of history. And when transfrontier cooperation develops, we see that there is a paradigm shift. Peoples who, until then, were back-to-back, turn round and look each other in the eye and start working together, cooperating, and that really does change the prospects for cooperation, but it also changes attitudes and relationships between the peoples concerned. The Council of Europe has supported cooperation initiatives for a long time, since the 1970s and 1980s, in fact. The organisation has played a pioneering role. It drew up in 1980 the Outline Convention for Transfrontier Cooperation, based on a number of different projects carried out, experience that had been gathered in the 60s, in the Nordic countries, in the Rhineland countries and regions, and in the Alpine region and Pyrenees and Jura. So signed in Madrid on the 21st of May 1980, the European Outline Convention has led to many transfrontier cooperation initiatives and is a reference basis now in international law, helping to overcome, to govern neighbourly relations across borders, and it helps to develop cooperation between local authorities. So at the end of the year, we'll be celebrating the 30th anniversary of the entry into force of the convention. That was the 22nd of December 1981 when it came into force. And this text has served as a basis for a new international law doctrine. To date, 37 countries in the Council of Europe out of the 47 have acceded to the Outline Convention. Since then, the Council of Europe, though, has added to its legislative arsenal in this field. There have been 3 additional protocols. First of all, there is the additional protocol that came into force in December 1998, ratified by 23 member states, and it reinforces the Madrid Convention, recognising the right of local and regional authorities to sign transfrontier cooperation agreements. Then there's the second protocol that came into force on the 1st of February 2001. It's now been ratified by 22 member states. And this protocol is fully in keeping with the declaration of the Summit of Heads of State that was given in Vienna in 1993, and it recognises the right of public authorities to sign agreements between regions that are not adjacent. Then there was a third protocol that was signed in 2009. And there are 10 signatures so far, and 1 ratification. In other words, it hasn't yet come into force. But it does contain provisions relating to the legal status and relating to the procedures for setting up and running Euro-regional cooperation groupings. Euro-regional cooperation groupings, ECGs. So these groupings, made up of local authorities and other public bodies, will implement transfrontier cooperation and interterritorial cooperation while respecting, of course, the competences of the states that have ratified the protocol. So 30 years on, we can see that a lot has happened since the Madrid Convention came into force. The Council of Europe has done a lot to overcome obstacles to transfrontier cooperation and to give member states, local and regional authorities, the legal instruments they need to develop cooperation cooperation on sound basis. However, there are still a number of important difficulties encountered. Why is that? Well, because there are so many different political systems, in fact, and the local and regional authorities have different powers. There are the different legal traditions and different languages. The third protocol goes some way to solving this problem of diversity. It offers more legal certainty to those bodies that set up ECGs, and there is the EU's instrument set up in 2006 as well, with the new possibility of creating EGTCs, that is European Groupings of Territorial Cooperation. So remember that, EGTC. It's important for people to know what they are, but of course sometimes we tend to use too many abbreviations. So one body was set up, one possibility was set up by the Council of Europe, another possibility set up by the EU, but they are systems that are complementary. There is room for both systems and both instruments, but we need to assess how they work. The EU is assessing what's going on, and I think we need to ensure that there is still complementarity between the instruments in future. As to whether you should use an ECG or an EGTC, well, it's a very technical matter, and I think you really need to know what you're talking about before you make that decision. But I think that we need to cooperate more with the Committee of the Regions on this. I think that we can say that in 2011 there are a number of findings. Transfrontier cooperation in Europe has changed considerably. Efforts and measures have been taken at the Council of Europe and also by the European Union. The Committee of Ministers at the Council of Europe has adopted a number of recommendations, most recently in 2005, to highlight good practices and to develop language teaching as well, so that people can learn the language of neighbouring frontiers. That's very important in Europe. The European ministers of local and regional authorities have also highlighted transfrontier cooperation as a priority, and they're going to focus on ways of eliminating obstacles to transfrontier cooperation when they meet in Utrecht in 2009. The document that will be submitted in Utrecht is a document that has been drawn up with the help of the Congress. The Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe has also adopted a recommendation in this field in 2008. In the first decade of this new millennium, well, the Congress has organised debates. First of all, in 2002, there was a report that was drawn up with the help of Schugli from Switzerland, and then secondly, in 2009, there was a debate based on a report that I drew up and submitted. Within the European Union, things have changed as well. Following enlargement, we have seen that there are new external borders, and new internal borders have gone, and so that has changed the overall situation. Transfrontier cooperation is a highly topical issue. As a result of these changes in borders, the European Union has set up funding programs as well. Interreg is one example, but there's also the neighbourhood and partnership instrument. There is help pre-accession as well, and other programs. The European Union has this new instrument, the EGCT, as I said, and EGTC, and that is going to be adapted very shortly. I think it's true to say that a great many interregional transfrontier agreements have been signed. The Association of Border Regions of Europe studies what's going on, and it's interesting to see the map, in fact, illustrating where these agreements have been signed. The Madrid Convention, with its protocol, has been a driving force for helping transfrontier cooperation. Now you see lots of different names for regions cooperating with each other, but I think that every time the attempt is made to focus on particular areas, narrow or broader areas. We've got the Adriatic Sea region, the Black Sea region. These are agreements that we've seen, examples of transfrontier cooperation. Efforts are still underway. And the Congress has signed cooperation agreements. We've got the MOT, the Mission Opérationnelle Transfrontalière in France, for example, and then there's Kursk there. A declaration was adopted recently commemorating 40 years of transfrontier cooperation, but we looked back over the 3 different generations of transfrontier operation. First of all, you try and eliminate obstacles, then you try and solve problems that have resulted from the elimination of frontiers, and then thirdly, you really do see integrated transfrontier regions emerging. I think that we can be inspired by what has gone on. We need to carry on working on transfrontier cooperation. The Governance Committee is, of course, addressing this important matter of transfrontier cooperation in Kiev. I'm sure we'll go into this in greater detail, and this morning we heard a very interesting report produced by a body in Kale, just across the border. They've been studying transfrontier cooperation and how it has developed over the years. So a lot of work is going on and has been done. I am a very disciplined speaker, so I'm just about to stop, but I would like to say that for a long time now I have personally been convinced that transfrontier cooperation is a real driving force. It's like a laboratory as well, but I think it can help European integration within the European Union, but also within the wider area covered by the Council of Europe. Thank you very much for your attention.